Trying to add those last few players to your team before Madden 21 drops. Avoid the packs, save the racks, use code CC now, 25% off. Hey, what is going on, Madden family? EA announced a few new X Factors for the defense today. We've always had the quarterbacks, we had the running backs. Trying to get some defense, and we actually got something new here. Let's go take a look at it right now. Let's just hop into it. No waiting around. We're talking about pass rushers today, so we got there's a bunch of them on here which have it, right? Oddly enough, I think we're missing a few players here which could, you know, have had X Factors, but the ones in regs this year getting the X Factors are Aaron Donald, Calais Campbell, Cam Jordan, Jalen Jones, Chris Jones, Donnell Hunter, DeMarcus Lawrence, Fletcher Cox, JJ Watt, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, and Nick Bosa. Oddly enough, they did TJ Watt, even though they didn't rate him very highly, but there's also no Von Miller on here either. Odd. That's odd. So now we see some of these X Factors coming up here. Run Stuffer is an old one. Unstoppable Force is an old one. Fearmonger is old. Momentum Shift is old. But we now have Relentless and Blitz. Right, so I want to start there. Let's look at Blitz. This is something that only Aaron Donald seems to have here. And of course, again, an X Factor is something you have to activate. It is not always active, okay? But Blitz means that when he gets in the zone, the opposing blockers will have their resistance bars wiped out. Well, what does that mean? Well, let me go back here. What does that mean exactly, okay? So when in the blocking system this year, it appears that pass rushers and blockers each have bars, right? So how many times they can perform a block or perform a move right before it's successful or they get beat, right? Or a chance, essentially, right? What this does is it has the offensive blockers with no resistance bars. So the way I read this is it's like, hey, you're going to get a sack, okay? How do you get it? Trigger 2 defensive line sacks. Okay. Doesn't say with him, so we'll see. And the knockout, it's only 1 down played. So I sort of see this as very similar to like a defensive version of Most, right? That you could get the sack there. Now, if you happen to see Aaron Donald active, blowing up with Blitz, you may want to run the ball here. You may just want to run the ball strategically as well. If you happen to have him there and it's a 3rd and long, maybe you want to take him out and hold him. I know that's kind of a risky strategy, but it could be something there. It's interesting. We'll go through a Run Stuffer here as well. This is an old one where the block shedding becomes more effective against run plays. 2 tackles for a loss. The knockout is 30 offensive yards allowed. Wasn't super overpowering last year. Probably not going to be the same way this year. I mean, maybe it is. Who knows? But that's the thing. Unstoppable Force. This was the one we all like to use in Madden 20. Pass rush wins lead to quicker block shedding. You trigger with 2 defensive line sacks and 10 yards allowed. So they changed the knockout on here as well. So again, this is regs. It may not be the same in MUT with some of these conditions and how you get into the zone and how you get out of the zone as well. But this is less than it was this year in MUT. I'm not sure if it's different than it was in regs. But Unstoppable Force, definitely, when active, wreaked havoc, was very good last year. They probably had to bring it back a little bit, in my opinion. But we'll see. I also feel like EA wants this year to make these X Factors stand out a bit more. Have you care about what they are much more. Fearmonger, this was one I used early on in Madden 20, where you get additional pressure on the quarterback when engaged with a blocker. Pressure means potential for inaccurate throws, right? So I like this before, especially on linebackers right there, like a blitzing linebacker. If you happen to have, say, a blitz with like a middle linebacker or something right there, who he's not always coming free, maybe he's just taking up space. This is a good one here. Obviously, if I'm rushing the passer, I would prefer to get the Unstoppable Force over this one for sure. Again, Fearmonger, it's back. Momentum Shift. This was one they introduced last year with Pat Tillman in the game, where when it happens on the field, opponents have their zone progress wiped, right? So that would mean that if you had someone had Eric Dickerson active last year and you got this, it would have wiped it out for you, which is pretty good. But it's also going to wipe their progress as well, I believe. So if you were like at 3 deep passes, you needed 4. Now you're going to need 4 again. It definitely has its own merit out there. You hit it a lot, but you're going to get 3 hit stick tackles or 2 defensive line sacks, and knockout of 1 down played. Again, that's just really taking everyone off the field, right? So again, that's an old one, and the other new one here is Relentless. Relentless. So it talks about tenacious, forceful defenders, where their pass rushing moves no longer cost points, so they can just keep going and going and going and going and going, right? This one seems to be pretty good, where it's a trigger of 1 sack or tackle for a loss. Now I imagine it's not going to be 1. I would think it's probably 2 here. In my opinion, 1's a lot. It would be every time JJ Watt or whoever had this got a sack, they would just be able to keep going with these pass rush moves, and they quote unquote be relentless, right? Which would be kind of overpowering, it seems like, especially for the knockout of 20 offensive yards allowed. So this one, depending on what the trigger is, if it stays at 1 sack or tackle for a loss, it's going to be really good. This is going to be really good. You're going to be able to get that guy into the zone really quickly and hold him there for 20 yards, which is considerable, because then, especially if you have someone or a blitz where you could put this on them, maybe it's a linebacker coming free, you put Relentless on them, you get the sack, and then all of a sudden now, when they try to block it again, bam, it's going to be real tough. You can move the guy around, since maybe he won't be the guy coming free, and then have him try to get extra pass rush when he's blocked already, right? So it's a little scheme in my head, right? So out of I think this year to 3-4 odd pinch bug 0, we had a linebacker coming free most of the times. So you got that, you triggered this. Maybe you switch that linebacker up, you put the guy with Relentless somewhere else, so that if the blitz does happen to get picked up, you can have this guy performing unlimited pass rush moves at the time. So just a little bit of an in-depth thought there. Where defense. So why'd you go back here? So there's a lot of defensive pass rushers in here. A lot of them, Nick Bosa and JJ Watt having Relentless. It's good. I feel like there, could be missing players. They're obviously going to change this. In MUT, you'll generally be able to pick which X factor you want based on the archetypes of the players you have anyway. So who has it? If you're a MUT guy, doesn't matter so much at this point, and that's fine. Blitz looks good. Unstoppable Force looks potentially good. And Relentless looks potentially good. So I'll be trying those all out when we get into the game, finally, in mid-late August, and let you guys know which ones we like the best. But that is it. I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys later. Stream time. I'm out. Peace.